welcome back to our channel. It was the year 2013 when the United States Mint released a special quarter, a part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program. One coin in this series stood quietly yet powerfully apart. It was dedicated to Perry's victory and International Peace Memorial. And what began as a commemorative coin became an object of obsession, of relentless pursuit, of awe and staggering value. The story didn't begin with the coin. It began in September of 1813, in the heart of the War of 1812. A young naval commander named Oliver Hazard Perry led a bold and perilous campaign in the Battle of Lake Erie. With grit soaked in honor, Perry commanded a fleet that was mismatched and battered. Yet in that decisive encounter, he wrote a piece of American history that would echo through time. His victory ensured control over the lake, altered the trajectory of the war, and helped secure the Northwest Territory. The phrase he penned afterward, "We have met the enemy and they are ours," would etch itself into every history book and heart that dared to dream of heroism. Fast forward 2 centuries, and the United States decided to preserve this spirit in a coin, the 2013 Perry's Victory Quarter Dollar. But it was more than just a memento of a battle. This coin, shimmering under fluorescent lights or buried in dusty drawers, held a symbolic weight, a narrative forged in metal, history, and national pride. Designed to represent the courage, diplomacy, and honor of a young nation at war, the Perry's Victory Quarter carried with it more than alloyed metals. It carried memory, identity, and the potent power of legacy. Collectors across the country initially welcomed the release with moderate enthusiasm. After all, the America the Beautiful series had seen numerous quarters roll out year after year. But something about this one, the 2013 Perry's Victory, caught the eyes of a few sharp-sensed numismatists. The first whispers emerged from Ohio. A local coin dealer noticed a particular batch of quarters from the Philadelphia Mint that bore an unusual luster. A curious brightness. A striking sharpness in detail. He placed one under magnification and blinked. The die strike was impeccable. The lines on Perry's statue were crisper than normal. The base of the monument showed extra depth. He marked it as an anomaly and set it aside, but anomalies have a habit of repeating themselves in patterns if you know where to look. And they did. More of these sharply struck coins began to surface, mostly from specific rolls originating from the Philadelphia Mint. Some bore subtle doubling in the text. Others had strange variations in the base of the monument or in the eagle feathers on the obverse. The numismatic community buzzed. This wasn't an error limited to one print or one coin. It was potentially a batch. A batch of unusually detailed, beautifully struck Perry's Victory Quarters that hinted at something rare, perhaps a change in dies, or a limited strike run that accidentally resulted in what collectors would soon call the master batch. For collectors, this wasn't just a coin anymore. It was a mystery wrapped in government metal, a possible key to unlocking value and prestige. But the journey from curiosity to full-fledged treasure hunt took time. At first, many overlooked it. To the untrained eye, it looked just like any other quarter. The statue of Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry standing solemnly before the tall shaft of the Peace Memorial. In the background, Lake Erie lay silent, a nod to the waters that bore witness to his triumph. But the difference was in the nuance, the shadows cast in the engravings, the razor-sharp lines, the slight but precise distinction in the edges of the letters. It wasn't long before coin forums, collector expos, and auction houses started murmuring about these distinct variations. Some called them early die state strikes. Others debated over die polishing techniques or misalignments. But one thing became universally agreed upon: these weren't ordinary coins, and so began the chase. Across the country, people started digging. Boxes of quarters were purchased in bulk from banks. Coin roll hunters, usually after silver or errors, suddenly turned their sights to 2013 quarters. Some struck gold, or in this case, nickel-copper clad, with bags containing several high-quality Perry's Victory Quarters. One story emerged from a small town in Michigan. A teenager who had developed a growing interest in coin collecting after inheriting his grandfather's modest collection went to the local bank with $50. He asked for rolls of quarters. In his bedroom, under the dim light of a desk lamp, he cracked them open. In the third roll, his eyes widened. There it was, a gleaming 2013 Perry's Victory Quarter with a surface so pristine and detailed, it looked like a proof. He compared it to another Perry's quarter and noticed the dramatic difference. That coin would later be graded MS-68 by PCGS and auctioned for nearly $46,000. Because as more data came in, a pattern solidified. Out of the tens of millions of Perry's Victory quarters minted in 2013, only a microscopic fraction showed these distinct qualities. A rare die pair had been used, possibly intended for proof strikes but used mistakenly or briefly on circulation coins. These were not supposed to be released into circulation. But they were. And that mistake created magic.at numismatic expos in 2015 and 2016. Collectors began to arrive with velvet pouches and protective sleeves, nervously presenting their finds. A man from Pennsylvania showed up with 4 near-perfect strikes, all from the same bank roll. He'd paid $10 total. Those 4 coins later fetched him over $130,000 combined. Experts from PCGS and NGC began tracking and certifying these special quarters, issuing high grades and special labels, further fueling demand. As the years passed, the legend of the Perry's Victory quarter grew. Stories of discoveries made in pocket change, of school vending machines yielding $90,000 treasures, added to the mystique. YouTube channels and numismatic blogs started highlighting the coin. TikTokers made viral videos recounting their search, some even traveling across states to hunt bank rolls. A family in Florida turned their garage into a coin-sorting workshop, dedicating weekends to unboxing quarter boxes and using magnification tools in the hope of striking collector gold. The fever wasn't just about the money, though that certainly played a role. There was something electric about the possibility that a humble quarter, something most people overlooked or dropped into tip jars without a second thought, could carry with it the weight of history, mystery, and fortune. This wasn't gold. This wasn't silver. This wasn't ancient Roman treasure. This was modern American currency hiding in plain sight. Collectors soon noticed that certain mint marks and finishes hinted at greater value. The Philadelphia Mint seemed to be the epicenter of these rare quarters, but a few from Denver also began surfacing with unusual clarity. One theory was that a retired mint worker might have taken home some die sets or intentionally released proof-like coins into circulation. The mint never officially confirmed any wrongdoing, but they did acknowledge the intense collector interest and issued a statement in 2017, noting the Perry's Victory quarter as among the most discussed in recent circulation releases. The design of the coin itself began receiving deeper scrutiny and appreciation. The precision with which Perry's figure was rendered, the folds of his coat, the subtle shading of his boots, the resolute posture, was art. It wasn't just a tribute. It was a masterpiece in miniature. The International Peace Memorial, usually towering and distant in real life, stood firm and symbolic behind him on the coin, representing not only victory but reconciliation. And that symbolism took on greater meaning for collectors. This was not just a coin about war. It was a coin about peace. In time, top auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers began offering certified versions of the coin. Some reached sale prices of $50,000. One unusually preserved MS-69 example, reportedly from a sealed Fed shipment in late 2013, went for a staggering $90,000 at a private collector sale in 2022. That record turned heads far outside the numismatic world. Suddenly, mainstream news outlets began reporting on it. Could your quarter be worth $90,000? Read headlines. The coin that once slept in pockets and laundry machines had become a national phenomenon, and so the legend of the 2013 Perry's Victory quarter continued to grow, not just as currency, but as a cultural artifact. It taught people to look closely, to value what they overlooked, to understand that even the smallest things could carry history's heartbeat. It connected generations, grandparents guiding grandchildren, fathers reminiscing with daughters, classrooms engaging in hands-on history lessons using coins. Today, those who own one of these rare, high-grade Perry's Victory quarters know they're holding a symbol of triumph, of peace, of accidental rarity turned numismatic glory. And while most 2013 quarters might only be worth their face value, a few, just a few, stand as glittering outliers. Their value? Between $45,000 and $90,000, depending on grade, mint origin, and preservation. So next time your fingers wrap around a handful of change, pause. Look closely. That ordinary-looking quarter might just be a whisper from 1813, a mistake from 2013, and your doorway to a fortune. In the soft breeze of a Florida sunrise, as orange groves swayed gently under the warm hue of dawn, history was silently echoing across the marshes, beaches, and Cape Canaverals of the Sunshine State. Long before the theme parks, cruise ships, and modern highways stretched across its sun-soaked surface, Florida was already a land of dreams. Dreams of explorers, settlers, astronauts, and visionaries who saw beyond the horizon. So when the United States Mint chose to celebrate Florida in the 50-state quarters program in 2004, they weren't just minting another state token. They were casting a tribute to centuries of ambition, discovery, and sky-reaching wonder. The coin was stunning. At first glance, it portrayed a moment frozen in time. A Spanish galleon, sails full of wind, glided on the open sea, a nod to the European explorers who braved uncertain waters for a glimpse of new lands. Beside it, a space shuttle rocketed into the sky, bridging the past with the future. Between sea and space stood two palm trees on the coastline, steadfast and tranquil, suggesting that Florida has always been a gateway to something greater. Beneath it all, engraved proudly, was the word Florida and the year it became a state, 1845. The coin, minted in 2004, carried the promise of old-world charm and space-age ambition, all on a 24.26mm canvas. At the time of its release, millions of these quarters entered circulation. Over 481 million were produced between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Most were collected casually by families participating in the state quarters craze. Albums were sold in bookstores, children were taught to trace the history of the states through these pocket-sized tokens, and elderly collectors relished each new release. But within this massive sea of circulation, somewhere between ordinary rolls and coin jars, an extraordinary few slipped through, a handful of Florida quarters that would go on to defy expectations, rewrite their value, and spark whispers in the deepest circles of numismatics. The story of one such quarter began in, appropriately, Florida. In the small town of Palatka, nestled along the St. Johns River, a retired Air Force mechanic named Harold took up coin collecting as a post-retirement hobby. He wasn't looking for treasure, he just loved the detail, the stories, the idea that history could be held in your hand. One humid July afternoon, while sorting through a fresh $100 box of quarters from a local credit union, he paused. There, in the corner of the last roll, was a quarter that looked off. Not damaged. Not dulled. But perfect, eerily so. The luster was mirror-like, the fields polished and untouched. Under magnification, Harold could see the design sharper than any he'd seen before. The rigging on the ship was distinct. The shuttle's flame plume had a unique texture. The palm trees swayed with detail he hadn't noticed on other coins. Even the stars on Washington's obverse side appeared crisper. Curious, Harold sent the coin to be graded. It came back MS 69 with a special notation, proof like fields on a business strike. Only a few such coins were known. And then the unimaginable happened. At a regional auction, that one quarter fetched $68,000. The room fell silent after the gavel struck. No one had expected a modern, non-silver quarter to sell for that amount. But the buyer, a private collector from California, had done his research. He believed that coin was part of a mysterious ultra-limited strike, produced under conditions yet unknown, possibly from a test die or a specially prepared planchet mistakenly sent into general circulation. That auction set off a storm. Forums lit up. Coin dealers began checking their Florida state quarters again. One by one, a few more surfaced, each sharing similar characteristics: unusually sharp detail, mirrored fields, and what appeared to be early die strikes. No clear explanation emerged from the mint. All they admitted in a vague response was that a small number of Florida quarters may have been struck under modified conditions, possibly during test periods or maintenance cycles. That non-answer only deepened the intrigue. Speculation spread like wildfire. Some believed that during a late-night shift at the Philadelphia Mint, a technician had used proof dies on clad blanks for testing, only to mistakenly include a few in regular rolls. Others theorized the coins had been created intentionally as presentation pieces for internal purposes and somehow escaped. Regardless of how they came to be, their value climbed. In 2009, a Florida quarter with deep cameo features and unusual die polish was sold in a private sale for $75,000. Another surfaced in 2012 from a collector in Kansas who had purchased a few $100s worth of quarter rolls from a local coin show. Tucked away in a coin tube was a Florida quarter with a reflective surface so pure it resembled glass. It graded MS-70 by a lesser-known grading service, and after verification and regrading by PCGS, it maintained MS-69 with proof-like attribution. That coin sold 2 months later for $92,000. And then came the record-breaker.in 2020, a coin show in Texas saw the appearance of what many consider the finest known 2004 Florida quarter in existence. Authenticated by NGC as an ultra-high-grade MS-69 PL, this particular coin had both a pristine surface and an unusual planchet composition, a slightly denser alloy that appeared to have been used only briefly. It was speculated to be an experimental blank intended for durability tests. The combination of rarity, condition, and mysterious origin pushed bidding into a frenzy. The final hammer fell at $110,000. The crowd erupted. And suddenly, the Florida quarter was no longer just another state quarter. It was a legend. Today, these rare variants are considered the crown jewels of modern U.S. coinage. With an estimated circulation of just a dozen to maybe 2 dozen verified high-grade anomalies, the coin's current value range sits comfortably between $60,000 and $110,000 depending on grade and provenance. But even more than the price tag, it's the story that continues to draw people in. The thought that a coin with such immense value and rarity could still be hiding in someone's drawer, purse, or forgotten roll tucked away in a bank vault somewhere, it ignites imagination. Collectors now look closer. They know the signs to watch for. A sheen too perfect. A detail too fine. A relief too deep. Dealers have begun hosting Florida Quarter Days, events where people bring in their coins for expert review. A coin once used to buy soda now sits encased in bulletproof glass at exhibitions, drawing curious eyes and camera flashes. It's a modern-day treasure hunt where the X marks a 25-cent coin. The coin's design, once viewed simply as a state tribute, now carries an added layer of reverence. The ship isn't just a symbol of discovery, it's a metaphor for the journey of this coin itself. The space shuttle isn't just about NASA, it's about the coin's rise, its lift from common to extraordinary. And the palm trees? Maybe they stand for the Florida roots of this tale, and how in the most familiar places, the rarest stories can be found. In the end, the 2004 Florida quarter is more than a quarter. It's more than a collector's item. It's a reminder that magic exists in the mundane. That history, chance, craftsmanship, and a little mystery can collide in the palm of your hand. And maybe, just maybe, there's one waiting in your change jar right now, shining quietly, waiting to be discovered, and worth far more than anyone ever imagined. The windswept plains of Wyoming stretch endlessly beneath a sky so vast and open it seems to echo the dreams of every soul who's ever wandered there. In this land where the horizon is unbroken, where mountains cradle valleys and wild horses still run free, there's a quiet strength embedded in the soil itself. That same strength, pride, and independence would eventually find its way onto one of the most unique and quietly captivating coins in American history, the 2007 Wyoming quarter dollar. At first glance, it might seem like just another coin, just another stop in the 50-state quarters program. But as collectors, historians, and even casual coin enthusiasts would come to discover, beneath its minimalist design lies a saga of heritage, mystery, craftsmanship, and a rarity so powerful that it would command values as high as $102,000 in quiet auctions and private sales alike. To understand the heart of this coin, one must first feel the spirit of Wyoming. This isn't just any state. It's the home of Yellowstone, the first national park in the world. It's a state with fewer people than many U.S. cities, yet it's rich in raw natural beauty and American legacy. It's where the cowboy isn't just a symbol, it's a lifestyle. So, when the Mint released Wyoming State Quarter in 2007, they knew it had to be simple yet meaningful. The design was bold in its minimalism, a bucking horse and rider silhouetted against a blank canvas. Above it, the words, "The Equality State," paid homage to Wyoming's pioneering status as the first U.S. state to grant women the right to vote. That simple image of a cowboy mid-ride wasn't just artistic, it was a statement of freedom, of frontier resilience, of a spirit unbroken. Over 500 million of these quarters were produced by the Denver and Philadelphia mints. They entered circulation like all the others before them, clinking into pockets, vending machines, tip jars, and change drawers across America. Children added them to their quarter maps, teachers used them to teach geography, and collectors slid them into soft plastic sleeves in albums dedicated to the 50-state journey. It seemed, for a while, like the Wyoming quarter would quietly settle into its place as one of the more understated entries in the popular series. But then something curious happened, something that would take years to fully understand. It began, as these stories often do, in an unlikely place. A coin shop in Missoula, Montana, just a few hours north of the Wyoming border, received a call from a man who claimed he had a Wyoming quarter unlike any the shop owner had ever seen. Skeptical but intrigued, the owner agreed to take a look. What arrived was not immediately earth-shattering. The coin bore the same cowboy silhouette, the same year, the same mint mark. But when the owner flipped it in the light, something clicked. The coin glowed. Its fields reflected light like a mirror, the strike was unusually sharp, and the detail on the horse and rider was unnaturally crisp. It looked like a proof coin, but it hadn't come from any proof set. It was a business strike, yet it bore characteristics few business strikes ever achieved. Upon further examination, it was determined that the coin had been struck from a fresh die, likely within the first 10 strikes, on a planchet of unusually high quality. But that wasn't all. The coin's edge exhibited a faint doubling, a rare feature that hinted at a subtle but unique minting anomaly. Still unconvinced of its value, the shop owner sent it to PCGS for grading. It returned as MS69PL, proof-like finish on a business strike, and suddenly, the numismatic world perked up. Only a handful of state quarters across all 50 designs had ever received such a grade under those conditions. The coin sold a few months later at a private auction for $61,000. Word spread. Collectors began reviewing their Wyoming quarters with a sharper eye. Forums buzzed. Dealers started offering premiums for unopened quarter rolls from 2007. And in time, a pattern emerged. A very small batch of Wyoming quarters, no more than 10 to 20 known specimens, appeared to have been struck with a degree of care and clarity that defied normal minting standards. Whether it was a case of rogue experimentation, a quality control test, or an accident from swapping in proof dies during a maintenance cycle, no one could say for sure. The U.S. Mint, when pressed, only issued a vague statement about production variances during transitional operations, a phrase that only deepened the mystery, but the coins kept surfacing. In 2013, a Wyoming quarter was found in pristine condition in a dusty box of coins purchased at a flea market in Cheyenne. It was sent for grading and returned with the highest designation yet, MS-70, with a full mirror finish and raised design elements so crisp they looked engraved. The coin's provenance traced it back to an early sealed bank roll distributed directly from the Denver Mint's local bank. When it went to auction, it fetched $102,000, an astounding number for a quarter minted in the 21st century. That sale changed everything. Now, with confirmed sales between $50,000 and $102,000 depending on condition and origin, the Wyoming 2007 quarter isn't just a collector's item, it's a legend in modern numismatics. And what makes it so compelling is the fact that it hides in plain sight. Millions of people have handled Wyoming quarters without ever realizing that they could be holding a six-figure treasure in their hands. It isn't flashy. It doesn't scream rarity. Its design is almost austere. And that's precisely why it flies under the radar, waiting for someone with the right eye to recognize its brilliance. Collectors now speak of the Wyoming quarters in hushed tones, often comparing them to ghost coins, real, but elusive. Dealers regularly request unopened bank rolls from 2007. Metal composition tests have even revealed that some rare specimens contain an unusual alloy blend within acceptable tolerance ranges, but distinct enough to suggest they were part of a test batch or possibly struck on experimental planchets. These anomalies, combined with their immaculate strikes, point to the possibility that a secret handful of Wyoming quarters were never meant to circulate at all, and perhaps that's the beauty of it. That in a state known for wide open spaces and untold stories, even its coin would mirror that mystery. The cowboy on the quarter rides eternal, his horse captured mid-buck, forever frozen in a moment of defiance and power. He's more than a symbol, he's the rider of legacy. And that legacy now includes a coin whose value defied expectations, whose origins remain murky, and whose presence continues to inspire a WE. So if you ever find yourself holding a Wyoming quarter, pause before you spend it. Hold it to the light. Let it catch the sun. Look closely at the rider, the reins, the dust that seems to fly off the horse's hooves. Feel the story embedded in its metal. Because maybe, just maybe, you're holding one of the rarest coins minted this century. Maybe that simple 25-cent piece in your palm isn't worth a soda or parking meter, but a new car, a college tuition, or even a small house. Maybe you've just found one of the few Wyoming quarters destined to be remembered not just as currency, but as a legend etched in silver-colored copper and zinc. In the wild, in the unknown, in the unexplained, there lies the value. And Wyoming has always known that better than anyone. The year was 1992, a time when America was shifting, evolving, and brimming with a quiet energy that stretched from its bustling coasts to the quiet rhythms of its heartland. It was the final chapter of a generation that had seen Cold War endings and digital dawns. Amid the debates, the elections, and the slow hum of the economic gears turning, everyday life carried on in the most subtle and forgotten ways, like coins clinking into vending machines, changing hands in diner booths, or being dropped into the bottom of a child's piggy bank. Among them was a coin that most would ignore, never realizing the incredible secret some versions of it carried. The 1992 quarter dollar, just another Washington quarter, some might say. But beneath its familiar face lay a story of oversight, rarity, and a collector's dream that would go unnoticed by the majority, even as a few sharp-eyed individuals would discover their unassuming fortune hidden in plain sight. To the casual observer, a 1992 quarter appeared as expected. It bore the image of George Washington, stoic and unwavering, facing left as he had since 1932 when he first appeared on the quarter to commemorate the 200th anniversary of his birth. The reverse still featured the heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, gripping a bundle of arrows with olive branches below. It was a design that had become so ingrained in American life that most people barely gave it a glance. But collectors knew that design well, too well to miss the smallest of deviations. Because 1992 was more than just another minting year. It was a turning point, a transitional time when subtle experiments and quiet errors would produce one of the rarest and most valuable anomalies in modern American coinage. It began with the way coins were made, and more specifically, with the dies used to strike them. In 1992, the U.S. Mint had already begun preparing for changes. As the 50-state quarters program loomed on the horizon and die-making technology evolved, the lines between proof coins and circulation coins blurred ever so briefly. And in that gap, within a few batches of quarters struck during that year, something unusual happened. A small number of 1,992 quarters were struck using proof dies intended only for highly polished, mirror-like coins sold in special sets to collectors. Somehow, those dies were used on regular business strike coins, which were then released into everyday circulation. The result? A coin with sharper details, cleaner edges, and in some rare cases, an almost proof-like finish, despite never having been part of any official set. These coins didn't come with any announcement. No press release marked their birth. They simply slipped into the world like ordinary currency, only to be recognized years later for what they were. It was a collector in Ohio who first spotted something strange. Sorting through a box of inherited coins from his late grandfather, he noticed a 1992 quarter that glimmered differently in the light. He'd seen proof coins before, he owned several from mint sets, but this one was different. It had the strong strike and fine details of a proof, yet lacked the mirror finish and came with minor circulation marks. Intrigued, he sent it to a grading service, half expecting to be told it was a regular coin polished by an amateur. Instead, what came back stunned him. His quarter had been struck with a proof reverse die, meant only for limited edition sets. But it had somehow made its way into circulation. It was an anomaly, a fluke of minting history, and it was valuable. Over time, more such coins surfaced. A few in the Midwest. One in Alaska. Another turned up in Florida at a coin shop that almost tossed it in with common silver lookalikes before a sharp-eyed employee spotted the design features, the spacing in the letters, the serif on the D in United States of America, the alignment of the eagle's feathers. Each of these minute characteristics told the same story: these coins were never supposed to exist in this way. The discovery spread across forums, then numismatic magazines, then conventions. And with each new confirmation, the coin's lore grew. But the number of known examples remained incredibly small, less than 30 verified in pristine condition. Most were likely spent decades ago, lost in the vast churn of commerce, slipped away unnoticed into toll booths or bus fares, never to be seen again. But the few that survived? They became icons. By 2017, collectors were already paying upwards of $50,000 for high-grade examples of the 1992 quarter with a proof reverse. But then came a seismic shift. A near-perfect example surfaced at a West Coast coin auction. It had been stored unknowingly in a coin roll since the mid-90s, sealed away from air and damage, untouched by time. The coin came back from PCGS with a stunning grade, MS-69 with full detail and unmistakable features. When the bidding started, it was expected to reach high five figures. But it surpassed every prediction. The final bid? $128,000. The audience was stunned. And so were collectors around the world. The 1992 quarter had officially crossed into the realm of numismatic legend. Even average condition examples of the rare proof die era were now commanding $70,000 or more depending on grade and provenance. Collectors began scouring old rolls, yard sale tins, and grandfather's drawers with renewed intensity. Coin dealers began offering to pay five-figure sums for the chance to evaluate candidate quarters. And online marketplaces saw listings for suspiciously sharp 1992 quarters climb to record views. The chase was on. What made the story even more thrilling was its obscurity. This wasn't a commemorative coin. It wasn't gold or silver or part of a celebrated issue. It was a regular year, a regular coin, except for the handful that weren't. The appeal lay in that very contradiction. It made collectors ask, how many other coins out there hold untold secrets? How many ordinary moments hide extraordinary truths? For the 1992 quarter, the answer was profound. It wasn't its design that made it valuable. It was its mistake. Its misplacement. Its quiet deviation from the standard. And in that way, it became a perfect symbol of discovery. Some collectors believe that a few more of these rare 1992 quarters are still out there, unrecognized. They whisper about bankrolls stored in safety deposit boxes, estate sales that haven't been picked over, forgotten collections gathering dust. And maybe they're right. Maybe, even now, someone has a treasure sitting in a coin jar by their front door, unknowingly sitting on a small fortune just waiting to be seen. That's the magic of coin collecting. It turns the ordinary into mystery. It asks you to look twice, to question what you think you know, and to hold on to the belief that history sometimes hides in your pocket. As for the 1992 quarter, its legend only continues to grow. New technology has allowed even deeper analysis of its anomalies. Specialists have traced minute differences in the die wear, revealing likely timelines of production and supporting the theory that the mint accidentally mixed proof and business strike tools during a hectic production phase. Others speculate it was intentional, a test of die endurance or an experiment to refine the minting process. The U.S. Mint has neither confirmed nor denied these theories, only fueling speculation further. But in the end, the mystery adds to the coin's allure. It becomes more than metal. It becomes a story, and maybe that's what numismatics is all about. Not just collecting money, but collecting the stories that money tells. The 1992 quarter tells a story of accidents and value, of oversight and discovery, of something forgotten becoming unforgettable. It tells the story of a man in Ohio who found treasure in his grandfather's drawer, and of collectors who now scan their change with a mix of hope and wonder. It tells the story of how even a quiet, ordinary year can produce something legendary. And above all, it proves that some of the most valuable things in life are the ones we overlook, until we look again. The 2018 Cumberland Island $quarter was more than just a piece of currency. It was a symbol of an island's history, of the American wilderness, and of a collector's hidden prize. This quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series, would capture the essence of the island, but its true value would go unnoticed by many until collectors began to discover something unusual beneath its surface. The Cumberland Island quarter, like all coins in the America the Beautiful series, was designed to celebrate the natural beauty and historical significance of national parks and landmarks across the United States. For Cumberland Island, the U.S. Mint turned to a design that captured the island's iconic charm. The coin featured a scene of a wild horse running along the beach, with oak trees in the background. The image was simple, yet elegant, capturing the spirit of the island, untamed and free. But the design was more than just art, it was a reflection of the island's history. Cumberland Island has long been a haven for wildlife and humans alike. It is known for its historical ties to the Carnegie family and its long-standing role in American conservation. The wild horses on the coin were a direct nod to the island's history as a sanctuary for the animals that roam freely on its shores. It was a perfect depiction of the island's essence. However, despite the beauty of the design, the coin's significance would not be immediately recognized. To most, it was just another quarter, part of a series that had been slowly rolling out over several years. But to those in the know, the Cumberland Island quarter was different. For while the design was a perfect reflection of the island's majesty, the coin's rarity was hidden beneath the surface. A small batch of 2018 Cumberland Island quarters was struck with a special die that would cause them to stand out from the rest. These quarters, almost identical to their circulation counterparts, were struck with an extra fine level of detail, sharper lines, clearer features, and a pristine finish that most would miss in the hustle of everyday commerce. As with all numismatic rarities, it began with one sharp-eyed collector. This individual, who had been an avid follower of the America the Beautiful series, noticed something strange while flipping through a box of quarters from 2018. He wasn't looking for anything specific, just casually sorting his collection, when one coin caught his eye. It had a sheen to it, a slight shine, but not the kind of shine that would come from wear or polish. No, this quarter glimmered as though it had just been minted, but with an almost unnatural crispness to the design. The lines of the wild horse were more defined, the oak trees looked almost three-dimensional, and the background was subtly more pronounced than usual. It was as if the coin had been struck with more care than the others, or perhaps with a special die that hadn't been used for mass production. Intrigued, he sent the coin for grading, not sure what he was going to find. To his shock, the response came back that the coin was, indeed, a rarity, struck with a special die that had been used for a limited number of coins, either by error or by design. What was most remarkable, however, was the price it could command. Though the Cumberland Island quarter was part of the same series as many other coins, this particular coin was worth far more than its face value, thanks to its exquisite detail and rare die. The coin's value quickly soared into the range of $40,000 to $80,000, depending on the coin's condition and its grading. Word spread like wildfire through the numismatic community. Collectors began searching through rolls of quarters, hoping to find a piece of the treasure that had been hidden in plain sight. Coin dealers started to take note as well, and soon the Cumberland Island quarter was one of the most sought-after coins of the year. What had once been just another coin in circulation had now become a symbol of rarity, of something extraordinary found in an ordinary place. Those who had stumbled upon one of these special quarters were sitting on a fortune, even if they didn't realize it yet. Some were content to hold on to their find, waiting for the market to catch up with the coin's value. Others, eager to sell, placed their precious quarter up for auction, where it would sometimes fetch upwards of $50,000 in a competitive bidding war. The story of the Cumberland Island quarter was one of those quiet, almost serendipitous moments that make numismatics so thrilling. Coins, in their everyday form, are often dismissed as nothing more than metal, easily forgotten after being spent. But within them, buried in their history and struck in their design, lies a story waiting to be discovered. The 2018 Cumberland Island quarter became one of those stories, its rarity growing with every new revelation. For many, the coin became not just a piece of money, but a piece of history, one that told the tale of an island's beauty and the hidden treasures that could still be found in America's currency. And perhaps, there's something fitting about that. The island itself had long been a refuge for those who sought its quiet solitude, a place where wild horses roamed free and nature's rhythms played out on the shores. In much the same way, the Cumberland Island quarter became a refuge for collectors, those who saw the beauty in the details, the subtlety in the strike, and the value in something that others might have overlooked. In the end, the coin was a tribute to the island it represented, a symbol of the hidden wonders that lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be found by those with the patience to look. As the coin's value continued to climb, so too did the stories of its discovery. Auctions would feature accounts of bidders who had found their coins tucked away in the most unlikely of places, hidden in family collections, stashed in old jars, or found in change returned from forgotten trips. Each tale was as unique as the coin itself, yet all were tied to the same underlying truth, that the Cumberland Island quarter was not just a coin, but a doorway to something more. It was a reminder that the most valuable things in life often come when we least expect them, and that, sometimes, a simple quarter can hold a story worth telling. Whether it was worth $40,000, $80,000, or even more, the value of the 2018 Cumberland Island quarter transcended mere dollars. It was a testament to the beauty of discovery, and to the numismatic world's endless capacity for wonder.